Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you that are calling in for the first time or will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move through this call quickly and bottom line the information for you. We know you're busy people. You have other things to do. We do have a standard format. We spend a few minutes talking about the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, which we continue to believe is the base currency for these other pre-valued currencies. We'd spend a few minutes talking about the program we've put in place to assist you, and then we go to a brief Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the purchase or the sale of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. And of course, the most relevant piece of information for those of us that hold these currencies is the expectation for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. We continue to believe that January of 2020 is the most plausible date for the reinstitution of the dinar, and I'm going to get into the reasons for that this afternoon. The government of Iraq and the CBI are well aware of the fact that the dinar must reinstitute in order for the continued growth of their private sector, and in addition, funding the international contracts that they need for the rebuilding of their infrastructure, as well as normal and conventional international trade. And from a geopolitical point of view, for the Western nations, separating Iraq from Iran, which is the bad player in the Middle East, and also making sure that Iran, in terms of the sanctions, is further isolated from the revenues generated by providing the services to Iraq. Now, the CBI and the banks are in the process of completing all of their reforms. All of the low denomination and coinage are in the possession of the 8 regional banks, ready for just distribution to the general public. They've also formally announced their intention to complete the deletion of the zeros process. Ironically, that's being held up to some degree by the United States Treasury Department, which insists that certain corrupt practices of the government cease and desist, and they're in the process of accommodating that demand. Now, the protests that have gone on in Iraq are now peaceful and orderly, which of course they were not initially, but in my opinion, they've accomplished their objective. Over the last couple of weeks, I had individuals on our calls concerned that these protests would indefinitely postpone the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar, and that was a possibility. But in my opinion then, and I continue to believe that they have in fact served as a catalyst for the reinstitution of the dinar. We have to remember that Iraq has a parliamentary form of government, which means the prime minister and his cabinet officials do not have to wait to the next scheduled election to be removed from office, but they can be removed on the spot with a no-confidence vote in Parliament. And the largest coalition in the Parliament are the Sadrists. They are rabidly anti-corruption, so they, along with the protesters, and I've no doubt that the Sadrists were orchestrating and coordinating a lot of the protests, have basically said to the Mahdi government, clean up your act right now, or we will remove you right now. And unfortunately, politicians, in some sense, are almost like terrorists in that the only thing they really understand is brute naked force. And the promise to remove them from office on a moment's notice was, I guess, what was needed to get them to move forward. Now, what has been accomplished through these protests? Well, now we have the 2020 budget proposal that has recently been introduced, and included in it is funding for many of the demands of the protesters. The CBI has announced, along with the government, that they will formally stop the corrupt currency auctions. Now, such statements have been made in the past, but they have not been made this emphatically, this repeatedly, and of course this time they've been made under the threat of removal from office. And last, the government has released a formal timetable for the implementation of the government reform package, and we've discussed this package in the past. So all of this, in my view, clearly points to their intention to reinstitute the dinar in January. Now, when we started talking about January as a plausible date 6 months ago, I know people were rolling their eyes and they were upset. They either didn't believe that it could be postponed to January because they've frankly been listening to the wrong people, or they just thought that was too far out. But, time passes as time does. We're talking about the reinstitution of the dinar in country in the next 75 to 90 days. That is not a long period of time, particularly for those of us that have been holding currencies for as long as a decade. So, frankly, people are running out of time to get their affairs in order prior to this revaluation. Now, most dinarians are ordinary working folks, not wealthy individuals, not necessarily knowledgeable in how to manage large sums of money. This is why Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It's a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Post-RV involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, the establishment of your package of pre-RV asset protection trusts. There are a number of entities one can establish to provide some level of asset protection. For example, one can establish an LLC or a sub-S corporation. Now, they are business entities. They do provide some asset protection. Primarily, they separate business assets from personal assets. The problem with utilizing those entities is that these currencies do not involve a formal business. They're personal assets, and they should be protected on a personal basis. In addition, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations owned in the majority by either one person or a closely held group can be pierced for civil litigation. So that makes the LLC and the sub-S corporation inappropriate for our needs. Many individuals have established something called a revocable or a living trust. Now, living trusts do exempt your estate from probate, which is regulated statutorily, and it can help to reduce the exposure to the federal estate tax. But they can provide no privacy or asset protection, so they are wholly inappropriate for our needs. Other individuals have established irrevocable trusts, which do provide privacy and a substantial amount of asset protection. However, there is an inherent flaw in a single trust. All of your assets would be housed in that one trust or that one entity. So that means that any asset within that entity that's involved in civil litigation could drag all of the other assets into that litigation because they're all owned by the same entity. The solution is to create a package of irrevocable trusts, and I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail just how that works and why that is the only bulletproof asset protection one can establish, whether they are a wealthy individual on their own or whether they have an asset like these currencies that they anticipate will increase substantially in value. The reasons for establishing a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly our package, are as follows. By establishing this package of trust, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity, because assets held within our trust package are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. The second reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it will allow you to avoid personal IRS scrutiny after the revaluation. If you are holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will probably be spitting out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming. It would be extremely frustrating because it would occur simultaneous to the revaluation of these currencies, and you have a lot of other issues to deal with. And the cost of a full-blown 6-year IRS audit would be more than the cost of our asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your asset protection trust package is enforced pre-RV and your currencies have been assigned to that trust package, you will have successfully transferred the taxable event of the revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. First, there's only a 10% chance of an IRS audit if this revaluation were to occur within our trust package. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this asset protection trust package is because included in it is our exclusive gift subtrust. Now, philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% gift tax by gifting currencies to family and friends, you need to gift those currencies prior to the revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the U.S. dollar lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange, that can be done outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, you can gift to them through our exclusive gift subtrust. Because you're gifting through this gift subtrust, their U.S. dollars will be protected along with yours. The language of this gift subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can gift to them the exact U.S. dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But because you are gifting through this gift subtrust, you will be able to manage, invest, control, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something referred to as the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government would assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Now, this scenario is not only unacceptable, it's completely avoidable. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that very same estate of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The 5th reason you'd want to establish this trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Now, what does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you actually own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from above. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies, or rather assign those currencies on paper to our trust package. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust has been structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, once any prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the currencies at the time you transferred them out of title to our trust package, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy referred to as segregation of assets, and I'll give you an example of how this would work. Let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. And before I even get into that example, I neglected to mention one other thing. Now that you've had this $25 million in trust, you've decided to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate sub-trust to be managed by your master trust. Now, why is this important from an asset protection standpoint? Now, let me go back to my previous example. You're driving one of your new cars. You have an accident. The accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is important. All of your other assets are safely protected in the other subtrusts. Why? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal persons or separate legal entities, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue civilly a separate legal entity. So this trust package works very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your package of irrevocable trusts prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, a holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in Phase 2, all of the products, services, and professional referrals critical needs once you have acquired this wealth. Now, I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the global revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trusts post-RV. Many of our clients have expressed the desire to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is through the direct transfer of funds from your asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. We'll have our tax specialists there to help you with all of the tax issues that we're going to be dealing with, many of which have not even been officially resolved by the IRS. We'll have our offshore specialists there as well, and they will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate future taxes on the reinvestment of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of the banks and it work in other markets. And lastly, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-backed currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial amount of your net worth invested in tangible assets to avoid that volatility. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned currencies pre-RV, your financial accounts like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV, and authorized to manage the additional subtrusts. One optional gift subtrust, which can be converted to a standard subtrust at any time, and 8 additional standard subtrusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But by restructuring that package for the benefit of Dinarians, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are several ways you could pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which is our basic out-of-pocket cost just to produce and deliver your trust to you. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. With this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their affairs in order and their trust in place pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us by credit card, not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd be paying under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. This $3,000 fee is a one-time only fee for this trust package. The only additional cost ever, and for the lifetime of this trust, would be the rather nominal paralegal fees that would be involved if you're going to change the terms of the trust or fund subtrusts. For example, let's say after the revaluation you contacted us and said, I just purchased a $1 million beach house and I want to protect it in a subtrust. The paralegal fee for creating the subtrust to protect that $1 million asset would be somewhere between $100 and $150. So again, paralegal fees are extremely nominal, and they are the only additional fee involved in establishing this trust package. Now, we're going to go to the Q&A in just a moment, but before we do, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider contacting us and getting our initial package. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in this area, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have actually been working together for about 10 years in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so, they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Under our system of civil procedure, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them or lose them outright. And it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through family and friends things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death, and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And time is running out. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Again, thanks so much for listening to the call. I hope this has been very informative for most of you. We're going to go to the Q&A in just a moment. And I suggest you have a pencil and paper handy if you'd like to get our initial trust informational package. You're under absolutely no obligation whatsoever by getting this package, even though it does include everything you need. If you should decide to proceed and establish a trust, you can review the package. It has a lot of information about us, about trust, about the revaluation. You can contact us by phone or email if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you in every way, and there will be no consultation fee. I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A. When I do, two quick rules on the Q&A. We don't take service calls on the Q&A. Our clients can contact us by phone or email if they have service questions. And for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open up now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is Trusts with an S, Unlimited, LLC at gmail.com. Our phone service is our email address is Trusts with an S, Unlimited, LLC at gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon with the exception of the last digit. Rather than dialing a 4, you'll dial a 3, and then use the same access code, which is 739-394-POUND. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be in our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically pre-RV, but post-RV emails may go out as often as weekly. So let's go to our Q&A. Our first caller is area code 603. That's 603. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim, how you doing? Down in New Hampshire.
You know what, Don? It's really funny. I was just thinking about you today. I thought, you know what? I haven't heard from this guy for a long time, and here you are.
Well, I listen all the time, but I just haven't had a chance to call in and stuff like that. One thing or another got in the way, or the call got dropped or whatever. But anyway, how you been, man? Been a while since we talked for sure. Good.
Yeah, how you and your wife doing?
We're doing great. We're in Georgia right now, heading down to Florida for the winter with the grandchildren.
I was going to say, I'm sure you're on the road.
oh, yeah, all the time. Hey, listen, just one quick question about the mechanics of the actual exchange, okay? When the reintroduction happens and we can go to the bank, we'll go take all our dinar or whatever, and we're going to exchange it, okay? But your seminar is not going to be for about 30 days. So in that interim, do we just take it all, no major investments, so just put it in dual exchange? I put the U.S. dollars in a non-interest-bearing account, let it sit until the seminar. Am I correct on that?
Okay. What I'm going to do, and you know what, Don, I forgot your last name. You want to give it to me real quick?
Meyer.
All right. The reason I asked is because I'm going to pull up your email. I'm going to send you, I thought you would have had it, but I'm going to send it to you. We have the exchange protocol if you have a trust, and it goes into detail, A to Z, everything that you do through the exchange process. So I'm going to send you that form, and it explains all of this. But in a nutshell, you're going to take all of your currencies, you're going to negotiate the rate, and you're going to have the USD placed in the trust bank account that you will establish that day at that bank. We don't want people to establish bank accounts, trust bank accounts pre-RV because, number one, you do not know which bank you're going to do your exchange. And number two, by creating a bank trust account, you're going to have to put some money in it, which means you have technically funded the trust, and some banks do not want to deal with you if you have accounts for that trust at other banks. So I will get that form to you.
Jim, I think I have that. Now that you're talking about it, and you mentioned a few things, I think I have that. That was sent out some time ago, right?
Okay, then do this. If you have it, please review it.
That's all I need. Okay.
If you don't have it or you have additional questions, give me a call or text me and let me know, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I'm getting older. Just forgot that I had it. That's all.
That's all right. Not a problem. There's a lot of documents. When you got your package, you got the instructions, you got the trust document itself, which is almost 200 pages, and you got 6 or 8 additional documents. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, I'm sure I got all that. I'm sure I got that. But how you feeling? I knew you were sick there a while back there. I haven't talked to you. You feeling good?
I'm doing well. I'm in good shape.
Okay. Have you heard from my buddy?
Support system too.
Okay. Have you heard from Les for a while? I haven't been on to hear him, but does Les check in from time to time?
Matter of fact, I see his name right here on the screen, so I might save him for last, just to jerk him around.
Well, if Les is listening, hey Les, great. I'll hang on with you. I haven't heard you for a while there. Just wondering if he's still around. So okay, good. Okay, Jim, I'll let you go. Nice talking to you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Our next caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yes, from New York. I have a question. So I know it may not be likely, but can the CBI, can they revalue this year if they wanted to?
I'm having a hard time understanding you. I'm breaking up. Are you in a car? Are you in a mountain or something?
Yeah, okay. Could you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better. Speak a little slower because for some reason the connection's bad.
Okay, I have a question about now. I know you said the CBI probably will revalue in January 2020, but is it possible they could revalue this year if they need to?
Certainly it's possible. The problem with revaluing this year is they have the accounting issue because they have to recalibrate the 2019 budget. So when you get this close to the end of the year, it makes no sense. Also, because of all of the issues that the protesters had, they don't want to see the budget passed if it doesn't include all of the funding for the issues of concern. They want to see the deletion of the zeros and all this other stuff. So it's possible, but in my view, it's highly unlikely. For all of the reasons I've stated, the most plausible date is January of 2020.
Okay, what about the NSA? What if they step in and say that they don't? Like, what if they stop the revaluation as they did in January 2019? Can they do that too?
They can do anything. But like I said, all things considered, the only date that really makes sense is January 2020.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye. Our next caller is area code 210. That's 210. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim, it's Ted in San Antonio.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
The other caller mentioned as far as revaluing or checking your currency in and getting it revalued. What if you revalue it in a bank that you don't have a trust account and put it in a trust account in like a credit union that does not revalue the currencies? Are we forced, or do we need to put it in a checking account as we revalue it?
The problem is when you go to the bank and you negotiate the exchange, the bank's not going to let you walk out with that money. They might give you as much as $10,000 that day, but they're going to make you keep that money at the bank. So you're going to need to establish a trust bank account at that bank on that day at the point of exchange. We just don't know where you're going to go to do the exchange. So I doubt very seriously any credit union or savings and loan is going to be involved in the reval. We don't know that if Tier 3 or Tier 2 banks are going to be involved. And to the extent that Tier 1 banks are involved, we don't know how many of them. So We just don't know yet. The only thing we know is that the bank's not. If you walk in there with 10 million dinar and they exchange it at $3, they're not going to let you walk out with a cashier's check for $30 million. You're putting it in an account at their bank, and they'd love for you to put it in a non-interest-bearing account to boot.
Okay, no, I understand that. I knew that. But what I'm asking basically is, though, because it's going to take time to set up the trust account if they go through it all, unless you just name the trust account and put it in there and give them a number, but don't actually have your trust.
It's not going to take long at all. When you go to the bank, if people that have our trust have our instructions, and one of the things you're going to do when you get your trust is go to the irs.gov and get your EIN number. So when you go to the bank, you'll have your trust, you'll have your currencies, you'll have your proof of purchase, and you'll have your EIN certification from the government. They will set up a trust bank account with the EIN number. It'll take them 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. So that's all you need, just the EIN number. Okay, I have all that. I have the trust, I have the EIN.
Well, the bank cannot set up a trust bank account or account for an LLC or sub S or any of that without an EIN. So as long as you have your EIN, you're good to go.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought they had to have the paperwork and scan a lot of things in and
no,
just it was more of a process.
There's two transactions. One is negotiating the exchange, and you will come to an agreement on how much USD you will receive for whatever currencies you have. The other issue is just creating the bank account. Now that's the same amount of work whether you walk in there with $100 or 100 million dinar.
Okay. That's too easy. I appreciate that. Okay, that's all I needed. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Right.
Our next caller is, and it's actually our last caller, is Les. That's 312 Les. Go ahead, Les.
Hey, Jim. Good afternoon. I'm glad Don finally called in.
Yeah. He couldn't resist trolling you there. That's all right. I was going to do it if he didn't.
I was going to call him a new guy, but since he still remembers me, I said, okay, I won't do him like that. Good to hear your voice, Don.
It's odd because just today I was kind of looking some stuff over and like, you know what, I haven't heard from Don for a while. I might have to give him a call if I can track down his number because I hope nothing's wrong, but he's just been living the life, traveling around the country in his RV, so,
Hey, when you got money, man, you can do that.
That's right. That's right. Well, what can I do for you today?
So, did I hear you say the what do you call it? The protests are going to spur the RV. It'll get them to move along faster because of the protest? Well,
remember, what we had talked about, a lot of people's fears were that things were going to degenerate so badly because of the protest, it was going to end up postponing everything, inclusive of the reinstitution of the currency. It was my opinion, and it was only my opinion, that it was actually going to serve as a catalyst to force the government to clean up their act because under a parliamentary system they can be removed, and the protesters were basically orchestrated by the sadrists. So it looks as though that's exactly what's happening, and that's why I still feel that January 2020 is the best date. Now, I've been in contact with my source in the Green Zone. I've discussed this individual before. He's done 2 tours. He's a relative. He's done 2 tours in Iraq, and now he's a principal in one of the security firms there. And he told me that the protests are much more orderly. They're much more peaceful. So basically what they're doing is they're just continuing on a daily basis to let the government know we're not going away. Get this stuff done.
Okay. Great. Can you send me that form? I don't know if I have it or not. The one with
the exchange protocol?
That protocol form, yeah.
Do I have your email address, I think? Let's see.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Yeah, I'll
it's not out.
Yeah, you know what? Text it to me just to make sure.
All right, we'll do.
And I will get that form right out to you, okay?
All right. Thanks again. Good hearing your voice. The last 2 weeks, I forgot to set my alarm to ring so that I can call in, and each time at 12:30, I remember, oh, man, I forgot Jim's call.
That's all right. You can get the replay. You didn't miss much. You're up to speed now.
All right. Well, thanks again, and say hi to the professor for me.
Will do. Take care, Les.
Take care. You too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, Les was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. I hope that our newer callers, whether you're listening today or you listen to the replay, will contact us and get our initial package. Once again, you're under absolutely no obligation by doing so. You can review everything in the package. Contact us if you have any questions. There will be no consultation fee. Our next call is, of course, scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. Failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Have a great week, everyone, and thanks again for listening. Bye-bye.